Well, thank you for letting me come. When Karen called me, I was pretty excited about it, even though I really don't know much about the Rotary and what that's all about. So that was helpful too. So I'm going to just give a little bit of background about me and then talk a little bit about our company and kind of how we got started. I've been a nurse for 30 years. I was thinking it was only 20, but it's 30 when I really went back and did the math. So that sure made my jaw drop. I thought, really? That long? So long, long time. Most of my career, 20 years of that, has been doing hospice. So we'll talk a little bit about that too, and kind of what that looks like, and then home care as well. I'm not from Utah. I am from Kansas. I grew up in Kansas, went to high school there, and my parents moved out here 30-some years ago, 36 years ago. So I've been here for a long time, almost half my life. Well, more than half my life, actually. So I'm kind of a Utah now. Live in Woodland Hills. Got my nursing degree in Weber State. And like I say, I've been a nurse for 30 years now. So married, have 2 children. We have 8 grandchildren. 4 of them are here in Utah County. 2 are in Salt Lake County, and then 2 more in Ohio. So, and we do get to see all of them a lot, which is fun. Lots of fun. So. I started Maple Creek about 5 years ago. This November it will have been 5 years ago when I started it. And again, I've been a nurse for a long time, and most of my career has been in the hospice side of things. And I worked for other hospices for the last, I'm going to say 15 years or so, about 15 years. And along the way, I saw lots of different ways to do hospice care. But I always had my own concept of what I thought hospice care should be like and what I wanted that to be like. So as I started getting older, and no offense to anybody in here, but my bosses just kept getting younger and younger and younger. I swear they were 12 by the time I finally decided to move. But I never knew what they were going to do. You know, they would merge with other companies, they would sell. They really didn't care about what we did out in the home, and I just thought, that's not, you know, I'm getting older, I never know what they're going to do. If I'm going to fail, I can do this on my own. So I started Maple Creek. What an experience that was. I knew a lot about hospice, I knew a lot about the regulations and Medicare and all of that, but I didn't know how tough it was going to be. First starting up with Medicare, and I don't know how many of you have ever had to work with the federal government, probably banking does, somewhat. No 2 people will ever give you the same answer, and they will assure you that this is all you have to do, and then you can move on to step B, but that wasn't right, you know? So it was just crazy, crazy. I don't know how I ever did it, but I'm so glad we got through that. It took us about a year, a little over a year, to get our certification from Medicare. And then also be CHAP accredited, which is a third body of people that come in and do an evaluation of your company, and you pay them lots and lots of money to say, yeah, you're good at this, you meet all the Medicare regs, the state regs, and then their volume of book that's about this big, and all the rules that you have to meet. So anyway, we did it, and I am just so, so grateful that I've done it. The first year and a half, 2 years, maybe even 3 really, I thought, I don't know that I can do this. I should have done this when I was younger. I shouldn't have waited so long. What was I thinking? But now I kind of feel like we've got our feet underneath us. We're pretty dang solid. We're pretty consistent. Most of our referrals come from word of mouth. We don't have any marketing except the big billboards and our big fire truck, and then some articles in the paper, but most of it's just word of mouth. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about home care and then a whole bunch about hospice, because that's what I love. That's what we do best, I believe, and that's how I think we serve our community the best. Home care, as Karen mentioned, is really for someone who just has some short-term needs. Maybe it's IV antibiotics, maybe it's a wound, maybe it's a little physical therapy, but the goals are for them to get better, to get back to what they were doing before. With physical therapy, we work on endurance and safety in the home, those kinds of things. They do have to be homebound during that time, and not for someone who's younger. I'm just mostly talking about Medicare rules for Medicare to pay for it. But again, it's short term. It might be 3 weeks, it might be 6 weeks, it might be 8 weeks, but there is a definite endpoint to that. And again, the goal is to get better. Medicare pays for all of it 100%. A physician does have to order that. And we're able to go in. We provide nurses, physical therapists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, people that can go in and help with bathing, those kinds of things, but all to kind of rally around that person, get them better, and get them back on their feet. So that's the home care line of our business, and I like it, and it serves people well, but I love hospice. That's why I went into this business. And I knew if I didn't do this, when I was on my dying bed, that would have been on my bucket list, and I would have said, I could have done that. I know I could have done it. So I'm glad I've done it. I only wish I would have been a little younger. I think I might have done better. So hospice is such a scary word to so many people, and it's still, after the 20 plus years of doing this, I run into the same thing, and it's still so misunderstood. Part of it is, I think, as a culture, we don't think we're ever going to die, and all we have to do is go to the doctor's office, and they've got one more pill, they've got one more surgery, they've got one more of something, they can make us better. So you've got that going on. Then you've got the glamour world that says, but you don't ever have to get old. You can stay young forever. We can do all of this to you and keep you young. So 20 years down the road, we are still fighting that. Yesterday, just to give you an example, I met with a family. They were just struggling. Their little mom's 93 years old. She can't do anything for herself anymore. She's been falling a lot. She can barely get herself up off of her chair. She hurts everywhere, just from age. I mean, she doesn't really have any one thing going on with her. So they called us, and I went out and met with them and just listened to all the challenges that they're having in the home. And so as I listened to them, they kind of painted a picture of where their mom was 6 months ago. She was independent. She was able to get to the car. She was able to go to her doctor's appointments. She can't do that anymore. She's not able to do that. So we talked about hospice as an option. And I said, now I know that word's scary to you, but let me tell you what all that can do. So we talked about what was going on with Mom, her safety concerns, which definitely we could address. They told me, kind of how she was going to the bathroom and using the toilet paper holder to lean on and those kinds of things. And so we talked about all those things that we could help with. But we also talked about putting a safety net in place for her. And that meant having our nurses available 24/7 to address any issues that come up, falls being her biggest thing. And then also to deal with her pain. Anytime there's something that is impacting their quality of life or changing their safety in any way, then we treat it. So we're pretty aggressive about it. And when you're 93, you don't have 3 days to get behind that. You need to stay ahead of that. And so we're very good at that. So just having that piece in place and identifying the fact that you don't sleep at night, and now you're sleeping all day, and now you're up wandering at night, all those things we're able to address. We have people that can go in and help with bathing.
I was just going to ask, if someone calls you and they don't know the condition or where, what they can do, have you ever went out and hospice isn't even enough?
That is so rare, I'll just tell you.
Really?
And that just speaks to the families here in Utah.
Okay.
I've never done this anywhere else, but it is just so rare that the families aren't able to pull around with kids, grandkids, and just support them. I mean, it's amazing. Let's say, though, that wasn't a possibility. There are facilities that they can move into, and of course there's all kinds of qualifications for that. You either pay privately or Medicaid can step in and help with that.
They're relying on you, I guess,
to give them that information. Yeah. So if we felt like things were incredibly unsafe and this person couldn't make their own decisions, then that might be something that we would recommend. Yeah. So with hospice, we have the nurse, and our job is to go out and assess and see what's going on and get that fixed so it's no longer a problem. And then also just guide the family to what's happening and what to expect. One of the biggest issues we deal with besides meds is nutrition, because Mom doesn't eat anymore. She's not hungry. What do? She's got to eat. If she'll just eat, she'll feel better and she'll get better. And this circle is just going on and on and on. So that's our job, to come in and kind of address that. Mom doesn't need the calories, first of all. Mom's not moving, so her body just doesn't need those calories. But that's also the body's preparation and saying, we're not going to be doing this forever. Let's just start focusing on some different things. So we help them better understand that and talk about ways to help the family and the patient. Typically it's small, frequent meals loaded with calories and protein. And we said, chicken soup doesn't cut it anymore. Start with dessert and then work your way back. So we deal with that a lot, though. Nutrition is a biggie.
Do you have nutrition?
We do. So again, that's kind of the nurse's job, and I know I'll bounce around because I'm thinking about this little lady that I saw yesterday. So the other piece of hospice, we are able to have someone go in and help them with the personal care. So this little 93-year-old cannot get in and out of the shower anymore, so she's declined a shower. So again, you know, increases that risk for UTIs. So again, having that person being able to go and help her get cleaned up every day, maybe make a meal for her. She gets to decide if it's once a week or every day. It's certainly up to her to make that decision. But another piece of that whole puzzle that helps keep her safe, we keep our eyes on her, and anything that's coming up we can address pretty quickly. Then we have our social worker, and their job is just to go in and say, you know what, there's a ton of resources out here that you may not know about. What do you think? Do you need them? It might be Meals on Wheels, financial planning, all kinds of things, but that's a social worker's job to kind of help with that. We have our chaplain, who's our spiritual care coordinator, and his job is just to go in and offer support that way. We have volunteers, and we have an incredible volunteer here from Spanish Fork, but their job is to just go out and just offer support. It may be shoveling sidewalks, it may be mowing the yard, it may be sitting with mom or dad while the family goes out to lunch, whatever that may be, but we do have volunteers as well. And then we have our medical director. So he's our go-to guy when I go out and see that this person, I think that they have a bladder infection. I just send him a text and I say, hey, this is what we got here, and he says, okay, here's what I want you to do. So he gives me the order, and then I go ahead and get it taken care of that day. So that whole team of professionals are able to coordinate and to stay on top of things really quickly. Along with that, the other three pieces that's important to know about hospice is it's all paid for at 100% under Medicare. All the medications that they're on and anything that we need to manage symptoms, we provide those as well. So those meds are delivered, ordered by our physician, and then delivered to the home. So they're not out chasing prescriptions and standing at the pharmacy saying, I know they called it in, I know they did.
But they are at the house, they're not with you guys.
They are in their homes. The other thing is they're on a med list a mile long, and you know they go in and they get this pill, and then they go in because this pill had side effects and they get another pill to be added to it. So we kind of go through that medication list and say, you know, tell me why you're on this, let's go through this. Maybe you don't need this anymore. It's always their choice, but we definitely look at meds that have been duplicated, meds that they probably don't need anymore. Blood pressure meds are huge. Lots of times people can go off of those as they get older. So anyway, but we do help with managing those meds. Any supplies that they need, so the adult pull-ups, briefs, gloves, all of those kinds of things hospice provides, and then any equipment. So if they need a hospital bed, a wheelchair, oxygen, a shower bench, wheelchair walker, all those things, that's something that hospice provides as well. So you have this darling little 93-year-old sitting in her home. She's hurting, she's miserable. She can't get out to see her doctor anymore. She's 93. She has atrial fib. But other than that, there's not a whole lot going on with her other than the fact that she's falling, she's much weaker, she can't do the things that she could even do 6 months ago. So why would she not be ready for hospice? You know, how do we just miss this continually? You know, right now they've got her going in, I want to say every 3 weeks for PTI and Rs. And I'm just thinking, wow. So anyway, we can do the PTI and Rs as well. So were you going to say something, Karen?
What's PTI and R?
Oh, it's just to check your blood level of a blood thinner. So it lets you know if you're within range or not within range. So there's lots of conversations that go on from this time when we first step in until the end. And with this little lady who's 93 and she's on Coumadin, she's falling all the time. So does it make sense to be on a blood thinner anymore? You know, that's something that they just kind of need to weigh out if that still makes sense for her. But keep the whole bigger picture in mind. She's 93, you know, she's not 23, but she's definitely falling more. So.
How much does this cost for a family to come in and get your care?
It's all covered at 100% under Medicare. Mm-hmm.
The person has to be homebound.
Not under hospice. Not with hospice. That person, again, Hospice is for somebody who has 6 months or less. That's the definition. That's the most difficult thing that we do, and honestly, Medicare thinks they've got that figured out, but they don't any better than we do. So you have to kind of use your best guess. You know, with this little lady, there's not one thing that's making her terminal, or that I can say, yeah, that's going to take her life in 6 months, but would I be surprised in 6 months if she was gone? No, she's 93. You know, I wouldn't be surprised, and especially with her recent history. So sometimes it's just hard to make that determination where they are in that process. But I've also taken care of people for 2.5 years on hospice, because we don't all die in 6 months when we think we've recognized, oh, you're going to die in 6 months. I mean, how do you recognize that? Medicare doesn't have that figured out yet. They kind of think they do, but they kind of don't. They miss it a lot, I can tell you. So kind of to address the meds, this story is interesting, and it's my second one since I've been doing my own business, where we've gone into a home and there's drug abuse. You know, people have problems with addiction. This is a young lady who's 32 years old. Her and her husband both, I don't know what all meds they've been on, but plenty of, you know, narcotics and I don't know what else. She has rectal cancer. So she's got something that's, you know, going to take her life. She's got a young family. Lots going on there. So we have to find a way to balance treating her pain, because I believe that she has pain and I believe that's real, but not support the drug addiction as well. And that's not easy to do. And I'm pretty sure we do support that drug addiction a little bit. But so what we've done in this particular home is we've got med boxes, we've gone to patches. I mean, we've done a lot of different things, but it's finally come down to, we believe if you rate your pain at this number, let's say it's a 6 or a 7, then here's what you should be able to take and you should be okay. Her pain has never been below an 8, ever. So you just kind of know that part of that is addiction. So we use the medications that she's going to have to use the least amount of time. So a patch is what we put on her that you only have to change every 3 days. Of course, she's got breakthrough meds, but we do just say, okay, you can have these, but this is how many you get in a day. And then the next day we go back and count just to make sure, because her husband also abuses them. So yeah, so that is a bit of a challenge. But you know, this lady has had 3 other hospices, and they've all said, we're not taking care of you anymore. But we will. You know, that is our job. She is dependent on drugs. They do have a drug addiction, but dang it, she's dying too. And she's got those young kids, and we still haven't gotten to that part of it. You know, we've still not really been able to address that, because she's still with her addiction. I don't think she's come to terms with the fact that she has rectal cancer and she's going to die. She's lost so much weight and so thin, you know, it's so obvious, but I just don't know that she's there yet. So anyway, what else? What other questions do you have?
So you mentioned that they don't all die in 6 months.
They don't.
There's a review process. What do you guys do when you hit the 6-month mark and, hey, you know, they didn't turn a corner and go back to where they're doing well.
Yeah, yeah.
They're maintaining.
Well, they can't just stabilize. If someone is on our service and they stabilize, so this little 93-year-old, she could be like this for another year. Our interventions being there, she's probably going to stop falling. She probably will come off of her Coumadin. So she's not going to have that risk for bleeding. So there's a good chance that she will stabilize. If she does, then she comes off of our service. And we do have to review that. We review it every 2 weeks. And if we ever determine that someone's not eligible, then it is our job to make sure that they come off our service. The lady that I had for 2.5 years, she would decline that much, but she was still declining, not going the right direction. And so I'm telling you, there were times I thought, oh my gosh, you know, are you still eligible? And Medicare has a review process. So if you determine, or if we determine as the provider that this person is no longer eligible for hospice, they can appeal it. So what that does is they call Medicare. Medicare says, hey, send your records over. You got 4 hours, so we send our records over. And we did this twice with her. And Medicare said, no, keep her on service. So there's kind of that safety net too.
So they don't have to switch to a different company or
No.
anything. They just have to be evaluated.
They just have to keep doing this instead of this.
And could they go off and
Yes,
move on?
yes. And there's, you know, a lot of times with hospice, what we find is there's some event, the little 93-year-old, she's been falling. She's had UTIs recently. She wasn't doing that before. So that's the event that kind of prompted the phone call to us. So there's usually something that's happened, and sometimes they do get better. I mean, we've had lots of patients that were in an event like that, and we've taken them off service because they weren't dying. And again, how do you know? I mean, 6 months out, how do you know someone's going to die? You can guess, but even with our cancer patients, who have our shortest lengths of stay, even with them, they look pretty dang good until that last week. So it's kind of hard.
Well, for a while.
All the statistics show too, if hospice is involved, it does extend their life. But I think it is because we're so proactive and we're there so much, getting ahead of things.
Do you
So.
get attached to them?
Absolutely. No, no, it's not depressing. So today, before I came here, and you guys just have to tell me when to stop. So today before I came here, I met a gentleman in our community. What an incredible man. He's an amazing artist. Without saying any names, he's an amazing artist. 70 years old. He's young. He is a young guy. And a couple of weeks ago, he just started having crazy behavioral problems. I mean, he got mean, he got ornery, just acting crazy, and the family said, something's not right here. So they got him in. They found out that he has a brain tumor. So I met with them this morning and got to see them in their home and talk about, you know, what's happening. He is in an incredible place right now, but I think part of that's the brain tumor, you know. But just the support that we're able to go in and give them. I mean, there's the wife, there's the kids, there's the grandkids, but be able to help them. And as those symptoms come up with the brain tumor, because they're going to come up and it's going to get a little tough once in a while, but for us to be able to help them with that and make a difference, there's no better job than this one. No better job than this. And yes, we do get attached. And yes, we cry out there at the bedside with them. So, but it's an amazing, amazing service. So, the other thing is we do provide bereavement services for the family 12 months after when the patient dies. So we do stay in touch with the family. So we don't just drop off the face of the earth. So what other questions or comments?
Are you ever involved in assisted living centers then? Like you'll come there instead of the
Right.
home or something?
Right. Most of what we do, and my whole goal was to stay close to home. I didn't want to drive up to Salt Lake and take care of patients. I really wanted to stay right here. So I'd say 90% of our base is right here. And I would say out of that 90% of our base, I don't think we have anyone in a facility right now. So we really do. I think our expertise is in the home. I love the facilities, but I love being in the home. It's so different, so different. So the other thing that we do is, for me, you know, hospice is so important and just everyone should have access to it. So we've had a lot of families, younger families in particular, that either their insurance doesn't pay for it or they don't have insurance. I mean, when you're 32, like our 32-year-old, this is the last thing you expect. So there's no funding for her. But we will always, always take a hospice patient, always. We've never turned one down. So home care, I'll direct you to the right place. Pardon me?
How do you cover that?
You just do. You just do. With hospice, the way it's reimbursed too, you get so much money every day you have somebody on service. And out of that comes all the things that we talked about, the team, the on-call that's 24/7, medications, equipment, and supplies. Some of those people outspend that dollar amount every day, but some of them don't. So I mean, you just have to balance it. But we'll never turn anyone away for hospice, ever. So
if on the home care, if you had a knee replacement or something, you needed, and you didn't know any places, you rely on your doctor, I guess. Do doctors have your name and other names, and how does that work?
they do. They do. I mean, we try to get our information out there. We've got brochures, we've got pens, we've got that kind of stuff. So it's out there. But again, for us, most of it, all of it's been word of mouth. It's just, we've taken care of somebody.
Like
Yeah.
this and then
The family that I went to see today, it was another family that we'd taken care of over at Legacy, actually, at the assisted living. So.